Hey you! You're watching a clip from the DynamiteGizmo podcast. This is not the full episode, but if you want to see the full episode, make sure to click the link in the description. And remember, like, comment, subscribe. Do it now! Here's the clip. But we're going to start with Jack Della Maddalena. Can I switch? I got to switch these around. 1 second here. How do I undo this? Jack Della Maddalena. Okay. Aha. That's better. Sorry, a little technical difficulties. I'm sorry, I'm running the show by myself, dude. All right. Speaking of Jack Della Maddalena.
I don't think that's actually insane. And, I don't like Eminem.
Had that one in the chamber ready to go. Let's get into this. Jack Della Maddalena has officially been in the MMA game for over a decade. Sorry, for a full decade. He had one amateur bout in 2015, which he won, before turning professional the very next year. And his pro career didn't start smoothly. He lost his first two fights back-to-back in 2016, but from that moment on, he's never lost again. Not once. His professional record now sits at 18-2-0, and those two losses early in his career, i.e. the beginning of his career, are the only blemishes that he has. He's 18-2-0. And again, those two losses were his very first fight and his very second fight. Other than that, never, ever lost again. Can you believe it? Jack's first professional fight came against a guy named Aldin Bates in Eternal MMA, one of Australia's premier martial arts promotions. Bates handed him that first defeat, but years later, after Della Maddalena captured the Eternal MMA Welterweight title for the second time in 2020, after defeating Kevin Josett, who, by the way, is currently in the UFC as well. He got his revenge. Jack Della Maddalena faced Aldin Bates once again, defended his title successfully, and closed his Eternal MMA run with a statement win. Okay? I have a little clip here.
I'd love to ask you about...
Whoopsies. And this clip is from an interview by... Don't know. He doesn't say. Wait. Oh, this is the spinning back fist. Is this the spinning back fist? I think this was a spinning back fist podcast. Let me see here. I just want to...
All right, welcome back to the Spinning Back Fist MMA.
Yep, it is. Okay. So there's a clip in the Spinning Back Fist podcast where they were interviewing Jack Della Maddalena, and he's talking about his revenge on his first loss in his professional MMA career.
I'd love to ask you about your final knockout on the regional scene before the Contender series.
But it looks like he's working in the kicks well.
Oh, nice.
Oh! Jack Della just put Aldin Bates to sleep.
It was redemption, right? You were avenging the first loss of your MMA career, the only knockout loss of your MMA career, TKO loss.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most stunning, like, still picture-perfect knockouts you could ask for. Yeah. What was that like?
I mean, it was obviously, that was first loss. That was a fight that I knew I wanted to get that guy back so badly.
It was like festering for years.
Yeah, it was festering for years. It really was a fire inside me. And it all just came down to that moment. I knew I could get him, and it was a good way to end my my regional scene sort of career.
See, that is insane, Jack Della.
Look at how he folds. Like a piece of toast that has too much butter on it.
That is what you call revenge.
Yummy. I love toast.
Jack Della has not just put Aldin to sleep.
Jack
but all
Della.
of his haters.
Yep. So he did it. He avenged his loss. Okay? He avenged his first loss. Something that not a lot of motherfuckers can say that they do. Okay? That victory earned him a shot on the Dana White Contender Series, where he secured a UFC contract by defeating Ange Loosa. Is that how you say it? Anze? Or is it Ange? I think it's Ange Loosa. Or no, Ange. Ange Loosa? Doesn't matter. Anyway, let's run that back. The victory against Aldin Bates after the second time they fought, he won against Aldin Bates, knocked him out. That was his last fight on the regional scene in Eternal MMA, defending his Eternal MMA title. That got him a shot on the Dana White Contender series, where he secured his UFC contract by fighting Anze Loosa via unanimous decision. From there, his climb was nothing short of meteoric. Within just 8 UFC fights and only 4 years, Jack rose through the rankings and dethroned Belal Muhammad this past May in Montreal to become the UFC Welterweight Champion. In those 8 UFC bouts, JDM has earned 8 Performance of the Night bonuses and 2 Fight of the Night bonuses. 10 total bonuses in 8 appearances. That is pretty rare, even for elite strikers, my friend. And heading into UFC 315 earlier this year, when he did win that title fight carried serious ripple effects across multiple divisions. Because if you remember, at the time, Islam Makhachev was still the lightweight champion. And he made it very clear that he'd only move up to welterweight if Della Maddalena won, out of respect for Belal Muhammad, his longtime training partner. It's a common sentiment in MMA, avoiding fights between teammates or close friends. It's what you do, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a fucking fighter. But meanwhile, Ilia Topuria had just vacated the featherweight title, and he moved up to lightweight, and the original plan was for him to challenge Islam for the lightweight title. That matchup was one of the 3 most anticipated fights of 2025. We didn't get it then, but it's a possibility that in the future we may get it. And when it happens, it'll be even bigger. As usual, you know how this game is played. Now here we are, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev, a true champion versus champion super fight. Even Khabib Nurmagomedov himself has admitted that JDM will be Islam's toughest test yet. Jack is a large, physically strong welterweight with some of the cleanest boxing in the entire UFC. Some might even argue the best boxing in UFC. His defensive fundamentals, precision combinations, and takedown defenses are absolutely motherfucking elite. Exactly the kind of tools that make him such a challenging puzzle for a grappler like Makhachev. JDM has also brought in Craig Jones and current featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski to help him prepare for his fight. And that's a massive factor that could push him on to the next level. Volkanovski, of course, is widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's fought Islam Makhachev twice and knows his style better than anyone else in the sport. Before facing Islam the first time, Volk was riding an incredible 20-fight win streak with 4 consecutive title defenses at featherweight. He moved up to lightweight to chase the champ status against Islam, and in that first meeting he came dangerously close to catching him in several exchanges, but ultimately lost by unanimous decision. Afterward, he returned back down to featherweight, unified the belt against Yair Rodriguez, and later stepped back up to lightweight on short notice for a second fight with Islam, where he was stopped in the first round. If there's anyone who truly understands Islam's timing, pressure, and grappling systems, it's Alexander Volkanovski. And the fact that he's an Australian teammate helping JDM only adds to that national connection and chemistry inside the gym. Then there's Craig Jones, who JDM also brought into his training camp. another world-class Australian talent and one of the most respected jiu-jitsu practitioners on the planet. He's rolled with and coached some of the best grapplers in the world and recently launched his own BJJ organization aimed at giving athletes more financial opportunities and exposure in the sport. So having both Volkanovski and Craig Jones in his camp gives JDM a major advantage. Between Volk's first-hand experience against Islam's game plan and Craig's elite grappling expertise, JDM is surrounded by two of the sharpest minds in modern combat sports. That combination could be key to unlocking the puzzle that no one else has been able to solve, i.e. Islam Makhachev. That's him training with Craig Jones, by the way, in case you didn't know. But you should know, because everybody knows Craig Jones nowadays. Everybody does. He's a funny little lad. Anyway. And part of what built that toughness is where he comes from. Okay, which is another factor we need to consider when looking when we're looking at JDM and Islam. Okay? Now, when we're talking about JDM specifically, like many Australian fighters, Jack grew up playing rugby, a sport that translates incredibly well into MMA. Rugby develops mental toughness, endurance, explosiveness, and quick decision-making under pressure. It also teaches body control, balance, and leverage, all key components in striking, clinch work, and grappling exchanges. It's no coincidence that a lot of successful Aussie fighters share that background. This matchup is massive, not only because of the stylistic clash, but because there aren't many big cards left this year. So if you're a fight fan, seriously, I said it before and I'll say it again, tune in to UFC 322 at Madison Square Garden this Saturday. It could easily be one of the most defining moments of 2025. And let me ask you this to end off this Jack Della Maddalena segment. If Jack Della Maddalena manages to stop Islam Makhachev, a man who's dominated nearly everyone he's ever faced, do you think it officially marks the start of the Aussie era in MMA? Or is Islam's grappling just too much for anyone, no matter the division, and JDM is fucked?
Tap here to watch the full episode of the Dynamite Gizmo podcast.